on, everybody? What is up? I'm still playing around with some of this stuff. I finally was able to upload this music from, I didn't have it saved to this new laptop, but I am live and I'm going to start sending everybody the link to the live stream this morning. I already got up early, went to the gym, did fasted cardio. I'm freaking blasted. I'm 37. This shit's so much harder than 10 years ago when I was 27. So anyway, welcome my one viewer so far. But yeah, Saturday morning, 8:42 my time, March 22nd, 2025. I just had another course added to my college stuff. So I got my Hello Kitty mug. So it's going to be a good day. But I was able to upload that Burning Purple song and put that as music selection for this. Now I'm going to figure out how to add the music just to the opening. And then as it transitions to here, it'll be the, what's up, dude? Oh, yeah, I was saying last time, that you did a great job on Gnostic's show the other night. You look just like a security dude I used to work with way back in the day. There's a guy that I met that was one of the honor guards for like the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. He was one of the guys that did the stuff back and forth, but he was also with my security company. And he knew a lot about, DC and stuff. And we froze our asses off election night at Trump Hotel. Fucking freezing wind just ripping through us. But you actually look like that dude. And I was like, is that Caesar? No, that ain't Caesar. Oh, you did security for a bit on deployment. Okay, yeah, you look like a military dude. But yeah, not much going on here. Just we got these new chickens. And I'm so freaking mad because I got 3 black Morans and 3 blue Morans. Cool. There's a little bit of they say that they peck a little bit, when they're bigger. Okay, I'll deal with that when they're bigger. But then I got these lavender Orpingtons, and one of the little baby lavender Orpingtons is not looking so hot. And I don't know what it is about. When I was younger, losing an animal or having issues with an animal, it never was really a big deal. And obviously, we have plenty of food in my backyard. We got chickens, we got eggs, we got pigs, we got goats, we got everything. But when it's one thing to harvest an animal because it's time for food and they've reached a good size and they're not too old yet. You don't want to wait till they're 100 and then, but when you go and you buy new chicks, you always want to get a bunch. But I don't know what it was. She's not growing. I don't think she's been eating a lot. And something about little birds, when they're so helpless, you just want to help them, but they can't talk. They can't tell you what's up. You don't want to overwater them or force water them too much. You just kind of want to do a couple of drops on their beak to see if they drink that back with like a sodium electrolyte solution of some kind, maybe with some apple cider vinegar in the feeder. And anyway, I'm dealing with that right now today. So I was paranoid that maybe having them in the house, in the kitchen area, like, on the chairs and stuff. I had a big Tupperware box with these new chicks inside. I was scared that maybe all the cooking and all the fumes and just of the, we cook a lot, we actually eat real food. And so they've said stuff about how your indoor birds like a budgie or a parrot or something like that. They say that they don't do well with Teflon, cooking with Teflon and stuff. So I was thinking maybe that just all around isn't good for the lungs at all with new small birds and stuff. The immune systems are very low. There's no moms around to keep them warm the whole time. I mean, I have one of the heater plates instead of the big glowing heat bulbs. Those cause fires and are big issues, but the 85-degree heat plates that they can get up underneath, those are great. So I got her in her own box, slid underneath the heat plate so the other chickens can be around her, but they won't trample her. Chickens don't give a shit about anything around them, and so they'll just trample all over the bird. And it's like, what are you doing? You gonna don't make it worse. So what's going on, y'all? All right, so we got some people here. What's up, Stone Bible Study? I like the name. Good morning, bro, or sir or ma'am. Midwest Auditing Media. What up, chickens, pigs, goats, thumbs? Thank you. See, you're law enforcement? Hell yeah, man. Yeah, man, it'll be okay. You know, the other day I walked outside. I'm like competitive by nature, I guess. So like, I don't like nothing going wrong with anything, you know. And so these lavender orpingtons are beautiful birds, and they kind of look a little purple. It's really cool. And they have their own issues too. I swear, if y'all are starting chickens, hit me up, and I'll, you know, give you the best advice on what breed to go with, you know, because they are not created equal. Easter eggers are good, but they can freaking fly. They can fly over your fence and, you know, and be in the road and the highway and stuff. Jersey Giants lay pretty much 2 eggs a day when they're happy. 200 a year is the thing that they say. Honestly, I think it could be more. And they'll give you 2 a day. And Jersey Giants don't seem to peck too hard. They get along, they're docile. Now, I do have a Rhode Island red rooster, and those are said to be some of the more aggressive ones. But we had 2 Easter eggers, and boy, these dudes were Chad and Tyrone. So after I got rid of them, the last boy we had was the Rhode Island red. And because he was the third in the chain, he's like nice, you know, he's not aggressive or anything. I can pick him right up and hold him while I'm doing stuff, you know, and it's funny. Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, so I've heard of people getting the air filtration systems for their, you know, glassed in bird cages and stuff, or just being real specific to have them in a certain room. That's, you know, and but we raised ducks in the same Tupperware bin right here, you know, because when they're really, really tiny, you don't even want to put them in a pen outside. Out here, the wind's strong enough to where it would probably kill the chicks. I'm not even joking. The wind out here, it ripped my fake owl off of the post. The wind out here is, I mean, I used to live near the beach and stuff, and even the wind out here is way faster than the stuff I used to deal with at the beach. I don't know how many knots it gets to, but I swear you can't hold nothing down. Like if your shit gets blown around the yard, just leave it, because if you go and rearrange it and make it all look good, the wind's going to blow that crap again, and it's just going to push it against the fence, and it'll be stuck against the fence as the wind is blowing. What's up, Rock? Like Wisconsin Thompson, but I'm going to start my only channel. Oh, for real? You know, hell yeah, dude. Actually, I'm providing probably. Hey, what's up, Allie? What's going on? I don't know if anyone's really coming on today. I'm just jumping on to kill it. I got all this schoolwork to do. I just got a class added, and online school is cool, but man, there's something I really love about going to the class every day. Just that takes up so much more of the time and whatnot. But let's see what's going on. I'm trying to see where Marcel is. He probably asleep. Been up to, let's see. One thing I will do is Myth Vision uploaded a new video. Let me play a little bit of that while I'm seeing where everybody is. I've been watching so much bodybuilding stuff, it's not even showing up when I go to look for it. This is stupid. Ancient Egyptian mysteries found in Christ. Now, I was interested to see this. I was interested. Let me pause it. Let me share. You learn more in class for sure. Yeah. I'm in school for, this is my 4th major. So I started out as a psychology major, and then I went into physical therapy, and then I went into finance, and then I went into biochemistry, and then I took a break for like 6 or 7 years, and now I'm in for cybersecurity. But the biggest reason I did that was because here in Dallas area, there's a lot of cybersecurity positions. There's military bases, Lockheed Martin, Tesla and SpaceX and all this stuff's out here. So I thought that that would be a good direction, but it kind of adds to my security business that I used to have, just physical security. So one thing that I guess I can, as you can do as you get older, is you, instead of doing the security gigs and getting security contracts and stuff, you'll get private investigation stuff or doing background checks for other businesses. And that's all within the security world. So in private investigation, background checks and stuff, physical security contracts and cybersecurity, having all that wrapped into one is the end goal for Black Men Protection, if that makes sense. My last name is Blackman, Black Men Protection, you know, the name of the hypothetical company to come. But starting a security company, all you need is a box of freaking polo shirts and the right license. So I need to, now that I got rid of the landscaping business and I don't have to worry about it anymore, now I'm going to get the instructor license, the armed instructors, all the crap that you need. Every state's a little bit different and they have different names for it. Like in Florida, the license you needed to have to be an instructor to get people their own licenses was called a K license. Out here, I have no idea what it's called. It's like level 2, 3, and 4 out here instead of a G license or a D license. Anyway, who cares? Security stuff is boring. But I'm in school for cybersecurity so that I can add that onto what the company provides. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff. I don't know if it really pays that well, but it's okay. No big deal. And I feel like about changing majors. I changed mine, got a bachelor's in education, and now I want to go back for nursing. Yeah, dude, nursing would be awesome. That or anything in the medical field. My wife is a microbiologist and she likes the lab. You know, if you're not a people person, the lab could be good. I'm not saying she's not. I'm just saying, like, I talked to my daughter about future careers, and I'm like, we were an Army family, always have been, but I was like, you should go in the Air Force Reserves and do something medical and then go to college for like lab technician or respiratory therapy or something medical. Cause I feel like women fit in real well with the medical world, you know, something about them, I think, complements the medical world. And ironically, the origins of the medical world, it's all gynecology anyway, kind of. So yeah, I think that fits well. I think that's why so many nurses females connect with nursing. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a dude and I think I would be good at being a nurse. But it's a tough major to get through, just like anything, you know, and then there's the certifications. And there's really good traveling nursing jobs. So, I mean, bro, you make a lot of money travel nursing. That's all I've ever heard from travel nurses was they just made bank. I think my friend Matt dated one and followed her around for forever. She paid for everything. I think he even lived in Fiji. Like you get a job in Fiji. Y'all like for those that just joined, this is me today. Am I a self-taught musician? No. Okay, so I took lessons from a guy named Sly. I forgot his last name. And he taught a guy that was the Backstreet Boys guitarist. Nothing special, though. There's so many great guitar players out there, way better than me. But once I learned pentatonic scales, then I was able to teach myself almost anything. So like all this bullshit AI music I have on the channel, I've gone back and learned it. That way, maybe one day we'll actually do it with us and like do like a music video or whatever. But this fucking Burning Purple that I'm trying to find, that's like nowhere. I just want to find one passage with it and make the song legit. Instead, it's just bullshit. I'm not 100%. I'm doing medical and the military first is definitely the play. You can get your certifications in the military for free and it transfers when you get out. In fact, like the Special Forces medical course is practically PA school crammed into 52 weeks. And if I'm not mistaken, you can go through a semester, maybe 2, and it's a transfer program that makes it's all the testing and all the other stuff you've already done, but you have to do it. You have to get it transferred, kind of like when someone's a doctor in another country and they come here, the same process. Now, I'm not going to lie. A lot of times in the military, you hear this mythology and it's not true. But having an SF medic on your team is like having a PA with you with a gun in his hand. You know, they're very, very smart dudes, very knowledgeable. That's for sure. This photo is better, not affiliated with the Popo. Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, I do like that. I can't really. It looks like a fire of some kind. Fire bubble. Something's on fire. Stone Bible study. I like the scroll you got. Did you use a AI thing to do that? I use so much AI stuff. Even with college, like I'm doing math, and I'm like double, triple checking my answers just because I'm so freaking dyslexic and all the things that I'm like, let me double check. Then I'll use ChatGPT daily to do that. I can't use it on the tests, but my last test in Math 150 was 100, so yay! So hopefully I'll do good. All right, I'm trying to see where everybody is, but let me become a member of this channel. Well, it's not that I wouldn't. So Myth Vision, I could be funny and use different word. I'm really excited or eager to see what him and Elaine Pagels talk about. I grew up with the origin of Satan on my mom's toilet, so, or our toilet, whatever. So I'm like, Elaine Pagels. I did like one episode on her talking about Mark IV, and she talks about, and I'm probably missing details too, as always, but she talks about how the secret teachings, you know, and of course she was a big Nag Hammadi girl, I believe, in the Gnostic world. And I love Elaine Pagels. Huge fan. So and obviously my mom. So I'm really excited to see what they talk about, because he's taken trips to go do these things, you know. Now, what I hope Gnostic or Myth Vision, if you're watching this, maybe you will. If I put a thumbnail of Myth Vision's video in my thumbnail, he might watch it. So, bro, if you are watching this, and Gnostic Informant, if you're watching this, I got our friend Chase Connor. He's a great director. He's starting a new show, and he's doing some pilot stuff. It's legit. It looks really good. Called the Gnostic Zone. And I think he's on to something very, very interesting here. Sort of a Black Mirror, sort of a show that has several skits, and you know, they leave you cliffhanging or this or that, stuff like that, you know, street performances, documentary style things, blah, blah, blah. All of that is the direction he's going. So he's done really well with this movie called Less Lost. And the week that he did our interview, he went public with the video, even though he had made the film a long time ago. And I swear in a week he had 15,000 views, and it was a nobody channel, if that makes sense. There was no subscribers, hardly any views on anything, you know, just like the trailer for the movie. And it exploded. So he lives down in Florida, near Gnostic and Myth Vision. He's like within an hour or so from like Orlando, if I'm not mistaken. And it would be cool to see Gnostic and Myth Vision because of how big their channels are, whether you like them or not. A lot of people here are from the Babylon crew and they don't like Gnostic or Myth. Some do like Gnostic or Myth Vision or any of the other channels. For some reason, I feel like they're the Lowe's and Home Depot of the Gnostic world. But Chase with the Gnostic Zone, he hasn't bothered trying to email anyone, or he doesn't, you know, he don't want to pry into people's stuff. But I was like, I need to show Gnostic and Myth Vision what he's doing, because that could be some interesting stuff. Imagine seeing them in a skit about Gnosticism and mythology that's being put into a symbolic thing that, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like a Purple Jesus, Big Lebowski type of thing, you know what I mean? Let's see what the comments. James Time Doctor, what is my current body fat percentage? Fucking too high. I don't know, dude. I'm 5'8", I'm just like 5 days into the whole 6 meal a day bullshit. This week was like the first week where I really got to be hands off with the landscaping biz that I sold to my buddy. So I was able to kind of focus more on that instead of like all the things that, going out and doing all that business and stuff. So today's been great for that. This week's been great for that. So I had a really, really good week when it came to that. I'll be in prep all the way till fall. And then, and what I'll probably do, because I do have a fitness channel, but when I got a new phone and a new laptop and all this stuff, I lost my login to that YouTube. But what I'll probably do is ignore that thing altogether. And I'll probably put all my updates and stuff actually just here, like I know that's not what everyone came for when it came to this channel, but that's part of me. So I don't know what I mean. It's a huge part of my life. So I'll day in the life, and my wife will be recording the walking into check-ins and me on stage and all the shit y'all gonna see, everything, and I think that would actually be cool, because I don't think anybody's coming here for any more Gnostic information. You know what I mean? Or whatever. I keep using Gnostic, but I hate that I even started using that word so much, because now I feel like I'm always talking about Neil, and it's like I'm not. But yeah, nobody's really coming here to get educated. You know what I mean? So I don't know. So I'll probably actually keep that whole thing up, and oh, they both released Easter videos. Here, let me do what I was doing. I'm so freaking distracted. Boom, boom. All right, we good?
And the Son of a God. 2, baptized in holy water. 3, performed miracles and leading disciples, both men and women. 4, he was betrayed by kin. 5, followers
I wasn't
consumed the
subscribed to
sacred
him.
meal of
I am
bread
on all
and
my other
wine.
channels. I just
6,
didn't realize I
brutally
wasn't
killed and body broken. 7, female companion mourns the death and searches for his body. 8, after his death they resurrect and were seen again. 9, his cult spreads from city to city. A mother chose.
Some of these pictures reminded me of some of the Renaissance pictures, and I was telling Allie a little bit about this, about the artwork, and how artists would put all kinds of little hints and stuff. Not that they're particularly accurate, but there's a huge smart-ass culture to artists, as there's always been. There's like musicians and stuff. But whenever you see Jesus grabbing Mary's chin, apparently at that time, and this is one of those Jean-Claude Schmitt type revelations, that was actually a symbol, and this is artists being, punching up at Christianity, picking a mate, picking a lover was this isn't one of the pictures, but it kind of looks like it. Anyway, that's a long rabbit hole there. Y'all can look it up.
Chosen by the divine brings forth a son destined to rule both the living and the dead. He walks among men, performing miracles, offering salvation, and gathering disciples.
I'm guessing this is the blind man.
His power defies nature. He heals the sick, miraculously brings wine to mortals, and overcomes death itself. But his enemies, fearing his influence, conspire against him. Betrayed, he is seized, humiliated, and
one of the things that some of the artists were talking about was that this puncture wound, whereas it has an actual reason for doing it, the checking to see if he's alive or not, but this puncture wound, and this has nothing to do with Babylon, this puncture wound here apparently is this, and this isn't my words, this is an article I read. I could pull it up real quick, but I think it's in another video I did, where that this is a vaginal transformation wound. Now, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous to think, because even if you read Hillman's book, Gynomorph Jesus and all that stuff, and if you go look at the passage from Revelation, there's nothing about that passage that is ultra feminizing at all. The term mastoi is used to describe the breast of anything, even though it's a feminine word. And then, of course, the term for the golden girdle, the breastplate, the belt, the sash around the chest, that's the only place where you have a little bit of, there's this poetic license being done when it comes to that being a bra. But the bra was not invented till later. What, the 1500s, or maybe even later than that. I can't remember. Meant by a French dude. So like the bra, that kind of bra didn't exist back then. So to constantly say the golden bra that we hear on that show, that Babylon show, that's not even very historically accurate. So the only way that it can really be perceived in a way that makes sense is if it was more of a girdle. But they had these, I mean, even the Codex Sinaiticus says girdle, but they had these girdles that it wasn't necessarily just a feminine thing. But I'm not gonna. Let's keep going.
Brutally slain, his body is torn, his followers mourn, and the world darkens in grief. Yet death does not hold him. He rises again, triumphant over the grave, and ascends to his rightful place in the afterlife. His followers, longing for communion with their God, partake in a sacred meal of bread and wine, symbolizing his flesh and blood. And through baptism, they share in his death, resurrection. This is the story of Jesus, but it's also the story or gospel of Dionysus, and it's the story or gospel of Osiris. That's right. I was just teasing you to realize that all three of these gods share much overlap in their stories. Just like the Gospels in the New Testament aren't perfectly aligned, though they have a lot of overlap, you can see the similarities between these gods.
I did a couple of videos on Bible contradictions, and the way that it all started was I went to ChatGPT and said, hey, what are all the contradicting stories from book to book? And it gives you a list, like, 10 to 12, things. And so I would just go and I would highlight the stuff from Mark or John or Luke or Matthew or whatever, and I would put them there and I would show the differences. And sometimes the differences really aren't that significant. And also I kind of think Bible contradictions it's almost sort of a weak argument now. Of course, at the time, I didn't really think it was that weak of an argument, like it's another golden grenade thing. But anyway, I'm gonna keep going.
Long before the Gospel of Mark was ever written, Dionysus, son of Zeus, was torn to pieces by his enemies, only to be reborn as a god of salvation. The Orphic tradition tells us that he was the child of Zeus and Persephone, a divine heir meant to take the throne of Olympus. But the Titans, jealous and full of malice, lured the young god with toys, then ripped him apart limb by limb and devoured his flesh. His heart, however, was saved by Athena, and Zeus resurrected him, making him the twice-born god. Dionysus was no ordinary god. He was a savior of humanity, a deity whose followers washed themselves in sacred waters and took part in ritual communion with wine, believing that through him they achieved spiritual renewal and eternal life. His cult promised liberation from suffering, his rites brought divine ecstasy and possession, and his presence defied death itself. When the first Christians spread their message, they saw Dionysus as a
So I'll talk about this while we're getting Tiger Shark here. Me and Tiger Shark actually are fans of Amon too, to a degree. However, the other day I was messaging Allie, and I was telling her kind of there's been sort of a revelation that I kind of expected, but sort of did not, and then sort of ignored, but sort of didn't, and I let myself create the channel with the same energy. That way I could really keep myself trying to find different passages that might have been referring to different entheogens. I don't know. You know what I mean? And the one thing that I mentioned to her was when he put my stuff on his channel, you know, I had a certain feeling at first, and then it sort of changed some. And some other guys talked to me about it, and I was like, I think my friends are right, actually. Like you're kind of the poster child for everyone who showed up here today, if that makes sense. Here he is. What up?
What's up, guys? Morning.
What up, Tiger Shark? Yeah,
How
I
you
think
doing?
Marcel's down for the count. He probably got home at 4 a.m. with that new bar he's been running.
Oh yeah, I bet it's a. Is he like a bar back or what is he?
He's been helping his buddy open up a second bar, so he's kind of doing everything. They got bartenders, I believe, but as far as kind of security / bar back / overall operations managing is kind of what he's helping his buddy with. And his buddy can trust him a lot because they've been friends their whole life. So you know how it is when you ask someone you haven't known a while to do stuff. You never know what you're going to get. So he's been helping out his buddy a lot. And I told him, I know what that's like when a friend's starting a new thing and you want to help him out, you end up giving a lot of your time to him. But in the future, I think it'll lighten up some. But he's trying to stack up some money because he's been kind of behind. So
That's good. He's getting the hours though.
yeah, he's getting it all done. So been a big part of it. Yeah, so Stone Bible Study, that's actually one of the things we've been trying to discover is all the passages with the burning purple. Now, the one thing I wanted to say that I was talking about in some comments with Allie and emails and stuff is I looked for the Merry Purple Fingers, the Merry Purple Lips, because it's one of those things that's a catchphrase. It's a coined phrase now amongst the fans of Greek philology. And it's not in the passage. It's the event. I can't even in my brain. It's the evangelism of Joseph, and it talks about Mary being betrothed to him.
Yeah, did you listen to his show yesterday?
Babylon?
Yeah.
No, I stopped watching because I can't comment in the comments. So I just kind of, I've stopped watching it. I know that's kind of, that sounds kind of one way.
He brought up the burning yesterday, although he didn't tie it to purple. But it was like a reference to, an experience, and the expression was burning feeling.
Yeah.
And we got into this. He went into different avenues, but he was like, what do you think that is? And everybody was like, drugs. And that, once they said drugs, I was like, well, burning purple, maybe. Right.
Yeah.
But he didn't clearly say that. So I think there's a lot of these things he's tying together. And I was searching in the literature actually about trying to find, with the dyes. And I made a comment yesterday because somebody brought that up in the Discord about that. And so one fascinating thing, we found a Chinese shaman, a mummified Chinese shaman with stained red teeth. Okay.
Okay.
It's like the first occurrence. And the archaeologists are like, this has to be a shaman. There's no other way because they're the ones with the medicine. They're putting the stuff on their, their mouths and stuff. So that literally her mouth was stained, and specifically the teeth in the gums area. And they were doing analysis on it. I need to dig into the chemical analysis a little bit more. They know the pigment is from cinnabar, which is like a mineral. So they're mixing minerals with other things. I don't know what else. I want to find, what else was in that.
Right. I think they were adding to a lot of things, honestly.
And then the other interesting thing is the dye. So like Mandy posted something on Discord the other day about the different dyes and references to the purple dyes.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's all the sea mollusk, source of the dye. But if you look up, if you look up what they were doing, so acacia is like a root and it has DMT, right? So they were actually taking the dye from the acacia and mixing it with the purple to make different colors and different shades of like crimson and other colors.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting there going, well, that has DMT in it. And if they're taking this other one that has mites, light, mild stimulate, the Tyrian purple, mixing it together, and we know those chemical compounds, we could pull the study if we wanted, and mixing them together, and then somehow taking that would stain your face. It totally would. I don't know if it'd be like super purple, but it would be, kind of a crimson, dark crimson color, just like the Chinese, mummy we found.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see if that's a reality, if that was something going on. Maybe we'll find more in the archaeological record with that. But those are the only things that I've found navigating the scientific literature, anything close to quote unquote burning purple.
Yeah. And that was something I was just trying to find, because that's what I emailed him about in the very first email. Because I was like, my dad's an author, so I can't publish a book that has all these holes, and trying to cite stuff with stuff that doesn't have the stuff in it, because you can totally do that. You can totally, and it's honestly, I think we might have all discovered that he might have even done that with some of his citations, because when Stephen and Neil were pulling up the sources and showing us, I was like, God damn, that's just like how ChatGPT, when you ask it to cite something for you, it'll cite stuff for you. But when you like, I'll put my whole chapter in there and be like, cite this, right? And it'll give me all these citations. And then it's like, fuck, some of these sources didn't exist. And sometimes when you go to the sources, they didn't have the material that I had in the chapter. And so I was kind of like doing it in reverse, and that was the way that I was trying to find these articles, was like, hey, find me an article that explains this. And it would find me these different articles. And then I would go and I would look, and I would have a hard time finding stuff sometimes. But hold on, let me see if I can pull up that same thing. So the Mary Purple Fingers, Purple Lips thing, that was a big one for me that I was trying to look for, because that right there, that right gives you so much more, right? Because we can't find that anywhere.
Well, here's where I think he's tying it in. So we have the Greek magical papyri, which we discussed with Gnostic and Cross Bible on the second show.
Yeah.
And even Cross Bible was like, why doesn't he just cite these sources? So it's the Panarion that we get a lot of that data. And actually, I did more digging since that show on that topic, because when Gnostic and I were talking about it, he briefly was like, oh, because I said they're mentioning the Nicolaitans in Revelations, in like Revelation 2:15 or whatever it is, 4:15 maybe. They mention the name, but if you go back and read the church fathers of who the Nicolaitans were, so this, everybody's saying that the Revelation was written between 70 and 90 AD, right? So if they're mentioning them at that time, then they must know who they are, right? They're a pretty big group for them to be mentioning them in Revelation, like you're name dropping them. So if you go back and read the early church fathers, and there's like 5 or 6 big ones that say that the Nicolaitans were started from Nicholas. Well, who's Nicholas? Look in Acts. I think it's Acts 6:15. If you want to pull it, you can, but you guys can pull it yourselves. I think it's Acts 6:15. It might not be, but I'm just going off the top of my head. Yeah. But they're listing the first 7 deacons chosen for their church with Peter, and Nicholas is one of the first 7 chosen in Acts. Okay. So Amon's thesis on these guys and what they're doing. So so we know that. So that's a big, big thing, right? If it's Nicholas, one of the first 7 deacons that's starting the church, like that's a pretty big deal, right? And if he's doing what they're saying in the Panarion and in the, he's tying it to like the Greek magical papyri and stuff like that.
What up? No wasted space.
This is Acts 16. No, go to 6. I think it's Acts 6.
Acts 6. Okay. Thanks to this. Now a word from our sponsor.
No, you're looking for texts? Yeah, it's Acts 6:5. 6:5.
6:5. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm at Acts 6. Okay. So the proposal pleased the whole group. They chose Stephen, man of full faith of the Holy Spirit. Also Philip, Prochorus, Nicanor, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Nicanor, I'm guessing. Timon, Parmenas, Parmesian, I'm just playing, and Nicholas from Antioch, a convert to Judaism.
So that's Acts 6:5, right?
Yes.
And he's a convert from Antioch. Well, what was happening in Antioch at that time? You remember Gnostic even had the videos of discussing the church. Like they never built churches. The Christians never built churches. They just went and took over existing churches. And one of the big ones was the one in Antioch. And who were in the murals in the church of Antioch? It's Ion, Dionysus, Aion.
Oh, yeah.
That's in the mural. So it's Dionysus. So all this stuff, like Nicholas has got to be steeped in this Dionysian type of revelry, right? With this type of celebrations and rituals.
This
So
is Saint
he's
Peter.
yeah.
A man of full of God's grace and power, performed great wonders and signs among the people. There's a synagogue of freedmen, so-called Jews of Cyrene and Alexandria, as well as provinces of Sicilia and Asia, who began to argue with Stephen against the wisdom spirit gave him as he spoke. And some must say, we have heard Stephen speak blasphemous words against Moses and against God. So they stirred up people and elders and teachers of the law, seized Stephen and brought him before the Sanhedrin. Oh, that's a guitar by Stevie Vai. He has a guitar name. They produced false witnesses who testified. This fellow never stopped speaking against this holy place and against the law. You know, there's a lot of pictures of Stephen holding that stalk of grain, and then he's also holding an olive branch, which obviously the olive oil and olive,
Yeah.
it was definitely something of value back then, you know, the olive tree. And apparently the Garden of Gethsemane was full of olive trees, according to someone I was talking to, but who knows how true that is. But it would make sense if that's where they harvested
ergot
olives for the solutions or something. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Any place where it's growing good, you know. Okay, so we had, this was one that we were looking at, Acts 6, and what was the other one?
So in Revelations they mentioned the group Nicolaitans, so it's Revelation 2:15, I believe. Yes, 2:15.
Revelation, some of the stuff looks like a huge acid trip when I'm
oh, for sure
reading it, you know. And but that's I know that there's going to be this huge entheogenic lens, these purple lenses, if you will, when I look at everything now. But I you know, I don't see why it's so weird to think that they were using stuff like that when there's, I mean, they have the calamus and the all these different plants in the oils and stuff already. It just kind of would be weird if it was like, yeah, but none of the ergot or not, you know what I mean? It just seems kind of funny if it would be like, yeah, we're using all these plant concoctions, but not that. When they're all seeing the Holy Spirit. I don't know. I personally really want it to be true. So I'm a horrible person to be a spokesperson for that, because I want it to be true so bad, which is why I liked Brian Morarescu when he did the Immortality Key. I would say his name wrong every time, because he doesn't do drugs. He doesn't do LSD. I wonder if he has now.
Well, to be honest, he's very smart about that, because Machiavelli talks about that, and I think this Brian guy was influenced by Machiavelli, even though he doesn't say it, because his whole contention with that, somebody asked him in an interview I watched with him once about that, and he said yes. He's like, I didn't want to take the drugs because I didn't want to be labeled just some stoner that wanted to have some theory on drugs. He wanted to come from like an actual professional to professional kind of background, right? He didn't want to be labeled like another Terrence McKenna or somebody like that.
Yeah, and that's I think that's what he said in the beginning of the book, was like, I didn't want to be looked at like a psychonaut who just wants everything to be Kenem Basem as an ingredient, holy anointing oil, brothers and sisters. Kenem Basem. Didn't we look that one up?
Yeah, no, this guy's absolutely 100% right. Yep, Stone Bible Studies, spot on. Yeah, and actually, the woman that first postulated this, she got her PhD in 1930. She's a Polish woman, Shula Bennett, Benet, Shula Bennett, Sula Bennett, Sula, I believe her name is.
So potentially cannabis, yes. However, there is the sacred anointing oil prescribed by God to Moses, blah blah blah. The Alcorus Calamus, the actual name that particular is called Sweet Flag, and apparently has a really sweet smell to it. And then, because sometimes the concoct, I mean, you ever smell cannabis cooking? Oh, when you're making edible, oh man, your whole house smells like the shit. Lemongrass or other aromatic plants. So yeah, cannabis is one of the it is a possible identification. It could also be, and I put this in the last video, I think that it could have been calamus too, not for its entheogenic qualities, but for its smell. Just like,
there's two. So if you look at Strong's, so if you look at the Hebrew Bible, they have the Strong's definition of the words. It's called Strong's, whatever.
Yeah, Strong's definition.
So there's actually I can drop you the website if you wanted to look at that a little bit more. We did pull it up before, but it gets into the actual words and what they mean and the descriptions of the words. But basically, it's like a long reed that has it's a very fragrant, potent smell. But the whole definition of that word is basically pointing to cannabis. It's hard to it would be hard to say it's something else.
So the text that everybody keeps referring to, that Amon is referring to when it says Mary with purple lips or purple fingers, it is the proto-evangelium of James, also known as the infancy gospel of James. It's an apocryphal text that details the birth and early life of Mary, the mother of Jesus. Nowhere in the passage, and I'm gonna pull it up in a minute, nowhere does it say she has purple fingers or purple lips. It is a complete insertion. Why everything had to be purple no matter what, in my eyes, to explain that just off the top of my head, I would think that they're putting the purple dye in all of the anointing oils because it's christening it's making it purple. It's making it that same royal color. I even wonder about instead of it being ashes and ashway or whatever, I'm thinking that they used that purple dye. If they were using it like that, it was just to putting the purple on you as a way of anointing and making the oil holy by having that royal dye in there. I don't know if that's true, but in my head, that's how I connect the dots with everything being purple. But the word porphyra is not in the text anywhere. I was so disappointed because I'm just trying to find one text where it directly says the dude's got a purple anus or someone's got purple fingers. It's nowhere. So I'm really having a tough time with that. If anybody can find that, send it to me at witchdoctorchristianity@gmail.com, and me and Tiger Shark will pull it up and we'll take a look at that. All the credit needs to be given where it needs to be. And there's a lot of things about the past and within theogen use that I do think was involved. But when you read certain texts and something isn't there, then it can't be something that you constantly regurgitate, right? And I see that a lot, just like how the term "I am not a laistace" is never said. I know it's kind of paraphrasing, but then the followers go and regurgitate that. And Kip talked about this. That is not in the text. So it becomes difficult to have the conversation with even scholars or even regular people when we're using paraphrases that aren't there, and or references to stuff that isn't there. Now, in this proto-evangelium of James, it does say that Mary was being nourished by the angels. Now, there you're open to all kinds of interpretations, right? And depending on who you are, it could be being nourished by the angels because she is high. It could be nourished by the angels because she is fat. It could, she's nourished, well nourished. She's also pregnant. So that could be kind of a way of saying, how people say, like, God's got a hold of them, something along those lines. Do I think that she could have been under some entheogens? Sure. But there's no purple fingers, purple lips. It's not in the text. So when people regurgitate that, argue, "Oh, Mary purple fingers, ha ha ha," it's like, no, ha ha ha. And so I was trying to explain to people that if you understand that this theater, this satirical theater, I'll pull it to just me and you for a second. This particular Cerberus had purple lips. I like that. So did Hercules' dog from eating the snail out of the shell and stuff. That's how they found out, apparently, in that particular story. That is one of the pictures in the book, in the chapter on the burning purple, or the quest for the burning purple. It's like my own version of Monty Python. It's the quest for the burning purple, not for the Holy Grail. But no, the purple dye is real. The purple dye is for sure. 100%. There's tons of articles on that. The murex shell is an ingredient in the holy incense. But Stone Bible Study, please send me that to witchdoctorchristianity@gmail.com. Because we do have modern studies on what the murex is, but they're modern.
So he's right. We did find the altar.
Oh, Mandy, I'm so stupid. Cerberus is Hercules' dog. I didn't even really know that. I just thought that the picture I saw, the dog only had one head. So I never thought it was Cerberus. So once again, artists, friend or foe.
So Stone Bible is right. We did find cannabis and frankincense. I don't know about the murex. I'd have to go back and look at it to scan for murex. But we did find cannabis and frankincense on the altar leading to the Holy of Holies.
Well, here's the one thing that in credit of all the purple stuff, it was very, very rampant, alive and well, and very well known about that purple dye, obviously,
And
so
the Jews are doing it. They have the Jews are specifically doing it at certain locations, and we know where they were doing it actually. And they would even process it in different locations. So they would get the shells. Some of the processing, I guess, sites were right where they would harvest the shells, but then other locations they would send it like further inland and then process it there.
So I'm at gospels.net, right? And I got
but I did want to riff off of one thing you said there for a second.
Go ahead.
So I think his fans and the diehards, whenever they hear somebody say there is no burning purple, automatically in their head, because Amen has said it so often and frequent, they think that we're saying there's no drugs, but that's not what we're saying. We're saying there are drugs, a lot of drugs. We're just not saying we can't find this reference to, it's an Easter egg hunt essentially to find what burning purple it actually is.
Right. And I know that some scholars, when they've gotten so saturated with the material, they're pulling so much from so many other sources into what they're saying. It's like every 2-3 words, it's a different citation of what they're creating. That's a sentence that someone will say that studied something a lot. The annotation took a picture, blah, blah, blah. Voice my being angels super far saying, "Don't fear me, because you find grace before the Lord. You can see because the power of God will overshadow you. It's the Most High, Son of the Most High, and we call the name Jesus, save people from his sins." And this is 2nd century, by the way. So it's not even. So that's where it starts to become difficult, because it's almost like you have to interpret the religion without the books because the books are so late to the game. But that's all you have. So it's like, oh man.
Well, so if we go back to like talking about the Nicolaitans and Nicholas, right? The Valentinians and even the Christians again teach us out of the Panarion, book 2, actually the Panarion. You can read what the Valentinians were doing, and their Eucharist ceremony was literally with human, liquids, and. So Gnostic was like, wow, he's like, I didn't know that was in this. And same with Stephen from Cross Bible. He was like, why doesn't he just sort these sites, sort the citations? But the problem is that even in there, we don't find the burning purple. But here's one angle that maybe I'm thinking differently on, Witch Doctor. Maybe burning purple isn't actually the stamp, like the actual drug. Maybe it's the drug plus the effect that it gives.
Oh, okay.
Like, because you know how almonds always like personifying things, right? And that's what the Greeks did. They personified drugs. I mean, that's these gods, in my opinion. The Medea with the half snake body, the snake venom, and then the upper half, which could be like an opium thing. Was, to me, that's kind of what they're doing. They're personifying these deities with the actual substances that allowed them to have these euphoric, experiences, and that they're detailing what those are, even the chanting and all that stuff. So if you take that humanistic standpoint of the experience and blend it into what this burning purple is, to me, it means like instinct. To me, that fruit in the Garden of Eden it's human instinct to take that. And there's no like second guessing about it. And to personify a God with giving it to you, to me just means that it's your instinct and your passion to actually experience that, as all humans do, as even animals do, right?
Burning desire.
That burning desire. Yeah.
So as she was in her 6th month, chapter 13 of the infancy of the Gospel of James, and she was in her 6th month, and look, Joseph came from his building. Now, this is not the Greek, but if if anybody wants to go find the Greek text and show me where they left out the word purple and fingers and lips and how they completely left it out of this translation, that's not going to be the case. And look, Joseph came from this building and came into the house and found her pregnant. And he struck his face and flung himself on the ground in a sackcloth and wept bitterly, saying, how can I look into the Lord God? What prayer can I say about this young girl, since I took her as a virgin from the temple of the Lord God? I didn't protect her. Who has set this trap for me? Who has done this evil thing in my house? Who has defiled the virgin? Reliving the story of Adam. For as Adam was glorifying in the hour of prayer, the serpent came, found Eve alone, and deceived her. Now that's happened to me. And Joseph stood from the sackcloth and called her and said to her, God cared for you. Why have you done this? You've forgotten the Lord your God. Why have you humiliated your soul? You were nourished in the Holy of Holies and received food from the hand of an angel. That is literally what the only passage that I can find, or so far, where Mary is being nourished by angels in a context where perhaps, you know what I'm saying? But this is it. The only problem with this being this is what he said that passage came from, and it's not what's here. So I just want everybody to understand. I love the theater, satirical theater, the dinner for schmucks, as I said to a guy the other day who was hammering me about Amon. I was telling him, Amon's satire theater is almost like dinner for schmucks, where if you are on the left side of the table, you're aware that everybody here is a schmuck and you're all here to enjoy and laugh at everybody who is just so ridiculous. It's the table of idiots. It's like, however, if you're not on that side of the table, then you're the schmuck, right? So what we're doing here at Witch Doctor is we're trying to just show people what is actually there. That way you can just be at the left side of the table looking at everybody else who's making, oh God, like remarks to the AI images of minor blonde girls being embraced with Pan or the different goat AIs and stuff, you know, or the weird purple semen looking stuff on the tips of young boys or young girls' tongues in these AI pictures. As everybody shows up saying, beautiful artwork, Chewy, you're almost making an ass out of yourself, because not only does Babylon know this, so does Chewy. And as everyone shows up to watch this, now, if you're on the left side of the table and you're the one who brought the schmucks to the dinner, then it's no harm, no foul. If you know it's satire in theater, like Mandy Moorhall tries to drive into people, he tries to tell people, but people don't get it. And arguably, I was probably entertaining it too hard in the beginning to just regurgitate things without looking them up and actually going, wait a minute, that isn't there. It's not there. There's plenty of things that were happening culturally in the time, and there's plenty of accuracies to the work that he has. However, if every single passage ends up being some ejaculate from some prepubescent person, then everything under the sun becomes that back then. And then that's when you start to get looked at weird by academics, because they're like, well, not everything was that, but that kind of stuff may have very well been happening from the leftover Greek cultures and stuff, you know, blood sacrifices or sacrifices in general or whatever, you know. And so considering that I was the only one out of a lot of people that watched this show that he pulled his information and put onto his show, I tried to explain this before. It was all fun and games until I was on the show, and then I started taking a little, I almost felt like it was mocking me some to a degree, because it was like, look, I got the king jester of them all, and then the zoom in on my little.
Oh, dude, he put lipstick on you, bro. And then people are like, he wasn't.
I never watched it. But
You're a
someone told
grown
me,
man and you're doing it to another grown man. If I did that intentionally, I would be taking the position that I'm mocking you. Yeah, for
well,
sure.
look, if just like Sacha Baron Cohen, if he acts like a gay Bruno character and he gets people to do embarrassing stuff, the joke is still on the other people. Sacha Baron Cohen knows it's a fake documentary and he's a comedian. Amon's willing to dress up in a wig to get other people to come on his show and dress up in a wig. But he's making fun of something with my picture. I never watched the episode to see the lipstick on my picture. But if he's going to make fun of a dude wearing lipstick, then he's literally mocking the people coming on to his show by getting them to wear wigs and lingerie. That's if he's mocking me for having lipstick on, but he's literally wearing a blonde wig and has people on blonde wigs coming into this initiation, then that right there shows you that if you're the one dressing up in the blonde wig and showing up, then you're the schmuck. Or if you're a witch doctor and you're finding every way for everything that he said to be true, then I'm also the schmuck. And so just full transparency. It's okay if y'all didn't realize this at first. There's plenty of truth or plenty of potential to the entheogens in the Babylon work, 100%. However, he's fully aware that y'all are showing up at the dinner for schmucks as the schmuck. And Chewie knows it and he knows it. That's why they're never going to stop, because they're not serious about a certain aspect of this satirical theater. But that's the beauty of Mother Greek, is that this was the birth of this. And Mandy Moorhall talks about it on his satire stuff. This Greek is the king of, or the queen of, satire's creation, making that whole thing that was almost like a renaissance, if you will, for our intellectual entertainment. And so that's why I still am a fan of Babylon, but only it's kind of different now because he's brought me on as the Rat King. So it's kind of like, I was kind of taking him more serious until he put my own shit on there. And then just being transparent, y'all, I ain't trying to make no enemies. I'm just saying. And then after he featured my stuff, then I kind of took him less seriously. And that opened up kind of a doorway for me to see more of this that I wasn't really trying to look for. But I was like, all right, so not only can I not find some of this stuff in the passages, such as this, you were nourished by the Holy of Holies and received food from the hand of an angel. Yeah. I can guarantee all this. There is no word purple anywhere in the original Greek.
But even just that one phrase. So like, I agree with everything you just said, because I mean, have you made a video and put Amon's face on it with lipstick? I don't think so.
No, I haven't. I've included his name and some of the screenshots of videos he was in, as the one video with Carl Ruck when he corrects his definition of Neoniskos.
Yeah.
That screenshot of that video is in one of my episodes.
Yeah. No, I remember, I actually remember watching that. So what I did initially when I first heard of Amon, right? I never jump on the bandwagon really. What I started doing is researching him, and I said, okay, this is the first time I'm hearing this person say this, which is cool. But let me go back and look at what he was saying 10 years ago, if he was saying it, right? Is he newly saying this, or has he always been saying the same thing? Sure enough, he's been always saying the same thing, which I like because it gives him more credence to what he's doing, right? But one of the interviews I watched, or he was doing a presentation, was just that one where he was on stage after Ruck giving his, presentation, and then he said that, and Ruck in the crowd corrected him on that.
Young man.
Yeah.
Well, he's a kid to me, and I totally get that. People call me a kid, and I'm 37. If they're 65, I'm just a kid to them. But
it's like the guy in the comments that was making fun of my hairline. Yes, my hairline's not the best. It used to be better when I was younger, but I'm also getting closer to 40. So like when you get to 40, I want to see how good you look, brother. Oh, you know what I mean?
I'll be on that TRT. Keeping the dream alive. But J Frog, I love that he's here today. Amon's main thesis is drugs in Christian Greco-Roman world, and literally no one was talking about it until he started his channel, at least not at the level that he has brought it to.
And that's why we like Amon. That's why we like it.
I like it. Obviously it's a little bittersweet to a degree, but yeah, I mean, I'm a grown man. I mean, look, I've been how many fucking half naked pictures of me are on the internet? Oh, you know what I mean? Like, I can take the criticism, oh, your hamstrings weren't lean enough to beat that guy or whatever. Yeah, I got it. I'm cool with that. And I don't mind being transparent, because some people they don't mentally give themselves permission to change how they feel until they see someone else going through the same thing. And that's what I was telling Allie, is I was like, I think a lot of more people would actually catch on to that. And then we can get back into him being satirical theater, instead of us thinking that we're going to get him on for a debate with Myth Vision. It's not going to happen. It's not the same thing. And I was explaining to a guy in the comments, and I roasted the fuck out this dude, because he was coming at me left and right. And I said, what we have theater, and then we have investigation. They're two completely different things. You talk to an actor and you talk to a cop. They're very different personalities. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where the whole work in general is become, you can't have a debate unless you have another fucking snake oil salesman like an exorcist. That works. A Christian preacher, that works. But an investigative journalist, it doesn't work. And that's why he can't just be friends with Gnostic and have him on the show all the time, because Gnostic's going to want to pull up the text and prove it. And that's, if it's not there, then it takes away from the whole thing, So there's but
he's also coming at it from the angle of like everything Greek, which I have a little bit of it. Like, he has before mentioned, he actually name dropped me on one of his shows.
Oh, sweet.
And people were like telling me about it, like, oh yeah, you mentioned you on the show. And then he started talking about Native Americans, and he was like, yes, he's like, they were doing this too. And I'm like, yeah, but everybody was, not just Native. Like, we found people in Fiji, right, doing cabenzas, ancient Fijians, like doing these rituals with psilocybin mushrooms, right? So we find it everywhere across the globe. And he even said at one point that, yes, this is the earth. And he's not wrong. They're just plants. And I think that we would be silly. I mean, we have animals doing it. Dolphins get high off pufferfish toxins. You have lemurs that get high off of centipedes that they release toxins. They get high, and you can go watch it.
What's catnip made from?
Catnip is actually a plant. It's actually a plant. It's a mild hallucinogenic. Yeah.
Family.
It's like I think it grows in Canada. I want to say it's a Canadian thing, to be honest. But it is a mild hallucinogenic. So whenever the cats are on catnip, that's what that is. If you ever watch them,
guys, if you're interested in looking at the evangelium, the proto-evangelium, or the infancy of the Gospel of James, God, and I'll have to jump off in a minute. I got to eat meal too and all that stuff. And then my daughter's been kind of sick, so like I didn't make her work out this week, but we're going to do in a little bit, and she's gotten in great shape. So she was with her mom for the last 10 years, and they're a military family, so they've moved every 3. It sucked for everyone, honestly. But she came and lived here in June, and man, she has just like lost so much weight, and her face is, she's also getting older too. But if you go to gospel.net, you'll see all of the Gospel of Mary, the Gospel of Judas, the Gospel of Philip, the Gospel of Truth, the Gospel of Peter, all these other non-canonical texts and stuff. I think the non-canonical stuff can be just as important as the canonical stuff, because the canonical stuff is what was approved versus the non-canonical stuff, which is stuff they didn't approve. And that could be broken up so much. This is why I want to have, if I can, and he might not ever want to, but if I could get Myth Vision on and with Gnostic, and we can look at that specifically and say, why did this make it and this didn't? Besides the decades apart from each other, and maybe it's too late. Sure, that's a good reason too. But we did have some stuff kind of changed and altered over time, but it might have just been too soon, but too late, but too soon at the same time, if that makes sense.
The one that almost made it was the Gospel of Peter. And if you actually read the Gospel of Peter, it's insane. There's like a walking, talking cross. Like an actual wooden.
The Lord is crucified. The Lord dies. The Lord is buried. And if you look the Nag Hammadi in like the Gospel of Mary and stuff, and sometimes you just have like sayings and stuff. It's not a very book, sort of.
Yeah.
It's very pieced together, if you will.
But the thing that if you guys want to pull stuff from the Nag Hammadi library text, there's a lot of passages where they're actually doing the rites and they're singing and chanting. So if you actually want, there's like literally a whole paragraph that's just somebody like chanting and saying words, like
So
during one of those experiences.
I got one question here. It's, what do you think about the History Valley podcast? Well, he commented on one of the Gnostic informant interviews. Now, I've been calling him, no offense, but I've been calling him the Gnostic Harley Boys. Two young whippersnappers with a knack of solving mysteries. It works so perfectly because the way that the guy talks, and that's fucked up. He'll probably never come on my show because of that shit. But it's not that I don't like his show. I haven't really watched it. I don't really watch other people's stuff now that I have my own YouTube, unless I watch it here with y'all. Of course, I watch all kinds of shit on YouTube, but it's bodybuilding stuff. It's everything else but this now. Just because, I don't know, man. Like, after writing 145,000 words on potential ancient Christian entheogens, I'm still gathering information, but I have more stuff to show than first, I feel, just from the book, like that, for example.
Let me give an observation, because I'm like you. I don't really watch History Valley, although I do think that he's doing good work. Mandy was on his show, actually. Yeah, he just mentioned that. But
Shit. Nice.
Yeah, so that's why I like him, because he gets a bunch of different aspects in what people are saying about the writings and stuff like that. I haven't watched him enough to know this, but I would like to see him get more archaeological guests on there, like Adler, and maybe he has, I don't know. But
dude, did you see? I agree with you. I did not mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
They fucking found shit under the pyramids.
Yeah. Somebody was telling me about it yesterday. My other friend was telling me about it. Like 600 meters down, right? Like columns that go down, and there's like a coil or something there, right?
Yes. Okay. I'm shocked that we're just now figuring that out. I didn't know it before, but I'm like, how do you miss that with all the scans and shit that we've been able to do? What the fuck?
Well,
this changes the whole game when it comes to deciphering what that fucking triangle is or pyramid. But it literally, I don't know. I almost feel like it was electroculture or agriculture.
Something like that. Yeah, it was a machine. It was a system. It was something, right? And once we figure out more and find more, one of the biggest issues, as you know, is that the Egyptians, cock-blocked everybody from going in there, right? There's a big problem with that.
Yeah.
And they don't release everything either. But they could be. This is my one contention with like a guy like Terence McKenna, is that I love Terence McKenna as much as I do. I don't agree with his whole forward causal thrust of novelty producing engine that the universe is. Why? Because we can clearly see that the Egyptians had technology to do things that we don't. We can't remake the pyramids today. We just don't have the tech to do it. So to insinuate that we're always advancing and moving in one direction, I think clearly there's examples of that not being the case in the archaeological record.
Different than the typical content you might be used to coming from this channel, but as it grows, I want to stay on top of the latest research and newest developments coming out about our ancient past as it's released. And just this week, in March of 2025, there appears to be breaking news coming out of Egyptian research surrounding the pyramids of Giza, with new developments to be released in the upcoming weeks as well. And it could be groundbreaking, so it's worth it to me, at least, to stay on top of this as news is potentially released. Essentially, what's been...
All right, so as y'all saw, the small little thumbnail of the cylindrical looking... Now, in construction, you do need sometimes foundation support, because if you've noticed some of the pyramids in South America, they're melting. And that's from foundational issues, I would only imagine. Anyway, continue.
found is a chamber inside the middle pyramid of Khafre on the Giza Plateau. And that chamber supposedly has 5 previously unknown structures that eerily resemble the Djed pillar, which can also be found in the Great Pyramid of Giza. But beyond that, there's been structures that have been found underneath this pyramid, structures going almost 2 kilometers deep underground.
All right. Now, this is where I'm kind of like, how did y'all not find this in any scans until just now? I'm so like, I've read all the Graham Hancock. Who hasn't, right? We've seen all the Randall Carlson. We've seen all the stuff. And we've always wondered what underneath the pyramid, there had to be more context to that besides the water channels for building the structure. And sometimes I theorize that the pyramid was just the way that they built all structures. Now, what the structures did could vary from pyramid to pyramid. Now, let's continue.
First, a little backstory. In 2017, the Scan Pyramids project discovered a void inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, or Khufu's pyramid, and it took the world by storm. And this was accomplished by using muon sensing technology. Now, muons are these particles that are always falling from space, and using muon detectors, scientists can count how many muons are passing through the space inside structures, and therefore it was able to be 3D mapped. Well, in 2022, Filippo Biondi and Corrado Malagna published a peer-reviewed paper using SAR technology to scan the Great Pyramid of Giza. Now, SAR, or synthetic aperture radar, uses radio waves to send signals down to the Earth and measures the pulses coming back as echoes, and therefore they're able.
I'm pausing for effect so that YouTube doesn't cut our shit.
To map the surrounding area where they sent out these radio waves. From what I know of SAR imaging, it is unable to penetrate through the ground, but their research team apparently added enhancements to this technology where they were able to measure micro movements in the background seismic activity, and therefore were able to create these 3D maps of both above ground and subsurface structures.
The paper itself clearly indicates that the results are experimental, and there is some controversy surrounding their findings in this 2022 publication, mainly because while many of the structures within the pyramid itself appear to have been mapped out, many were also not, and so some question the reliability of this methodology. On the other hand, many believe that because some of the structures were able to be mapped out, that it does indicate a viable approach using these technologically enhanced methods. The Land of Chem channel recently released a video, and I think he did a great job analyzing these particular results. So I'll link that and the paper in the description below so you can have a look for yourself to see how these stack up.
But the newest and possibly most impressive research they were able to
Hello. Oh, I guess he took off. But yeah, well, let's read some comments. So Mandy said that Dibble did a live stream yesterday explaining this. He said it's not true. It's 2 kilometer. He doesn't know where they're getting. Yeah, that's from what I heard. It was 600 meters. Yeah, 600
meters. Yeah, I saw that live stream. That's where it started, and then I saw another guy doing it on a different live stream.
But I was a professional geophysicist, right, out of college. Was my first job. And I used to do a bunch of different geophysical techniques. One would be ground penetrating radar. It's my thinking that they should probably do a bunch of, because it's non-invasive, right? It's not non-destructive. There's other geophysical techniques like seismic, but it is destructive. You have to set off a blast, essentially, which we've done before. We use shotguns to actually make the blast in certain surveys, looking for tectonics and stuff like that. But you could produce that in like a pyramid as well.
Well, archaeology digs that I was on, we didn't have anything too special like that. But the old school shotgun shell into the ground, bouncing the sound waves off of stuff in the ground, we couldn't even do because of all the bricks. So we
Yeah.
weren't able to there was too many bricks.
I've
It
done-
looks really good on dinosaur bones when there's no bricks around, because there wasn't bricks during that, you know. So but revolutionary time, oh man. And I was really lucky to be a kid in middle school on a freaking archaeological dig. I mean, it's absolutely, I'm so freaking lucky that my mom was even into that kind of crap. But it didn't like I really learned much. It was just,
But this is part of the problem, is that they limit who can actually go and do these studies there, right? And
no money too.
I've done GPR studies like on historical buildings and even on the arch site in St. Louis, because there's actually an old brick road down there, and it was all funded from the Fed, obviously, but you know the laws are you can't take any historical stuff that belongs to the government, so they wanted to map out that brick road that runs through the archway there. It's all under grass and stuff like that. But yeah, so they should be using GPR, in my opinion, to map out the pyramids. But I mean, it's insane because you have like guys that are talking about it. They have, you know, massive, you know, huge tonnage of freaking granite blocks. And then inside that you have passageways, right? I mean, this, you know, the level of sophistication that went into building this stuff is just mind blowing. It really is.
We have a couple of questions. Ever seen the Chinese pyramids? Yeah, I've seen the Chinese pyramids, the Mayan, everywhere. Yeah, they're pretty awesome. Let's see, pyramids in the Grand Canyon. No, I haven't seen those particularly, but I know that we found some artifacts. Foundation blocks, 8 columns, sounds like foundation for the weight stacked stones. Melted bricks, spirals are probably disturbed fill around the columns. Mud flood, James is talking about Tartaria. Tartaria, if you look up Tartaria, you can look up YouTube videos on Tartaria in literature. So where people are mentioning Tartarian or Tartaria in newspapers, just like the giant bone pictures of newspaper clippings of the giant skeletons, the same thing with Tartaria. However, Tartaria, it's not like a big hidden advanced civilization. It's refers to an area, and they did. Ibn Fadlan talks about fighting the Tartars, the barbarians from Siberia's land. And there's been a couple of, Marcel talked about how that Tartarian flag is a falsely annotated flag on that particular map of flags. But there's interesting stuff there, but it's not as far down the rabbit hole as, you know, people are claiming. And usually stuff isn't quite as usually the reality of most situations isn't nearly as sexy as the theories are. And I hate to use that word, but I've heard other people say it's stuff like that. So anyway, let's go.
Accomplish was on the middle pyramid, or Khafre's pyramid. And this information was just released this week in March. They applied the same technological approach and were able to identify a previously unknown chamber. And what was found inside that chamber were 5 multi-layered structures with a triangular cap that appeared to look like a Djed pillar, the same type of structure you can see in the Great Pyramid itself and in Egyptian hieroglyphs. But beyond that, because of this advanced technological approach, they were able to map out some of the subsurface structures that lay underneath this pyramid. And what
this is probably the coolest freaking thing I've seen in a really long time.
What was under there is quite shocking. There appeared to be 8 cylindrical columns aligned in pairs with spirals snaking their way down these columns. And underneath those, they sit upon 2 cube-like structures that appear to be non-natural. And the structures themselves go as far down as almost 2 kilometers, which is just incredible.
Okay,
the
that's where the
research presented are from an abstract.
So
those make it to at the bottom. Okay.
Abstract that was sent out to the press in anticipation of
is blowing
a 4-hour conference that is set to take place this week in Italy, where the team is going to present their research. And following that presentation, there is a plan to release this.
It's like we found a UFO in the ground. You
Well,
know,
I even think it's more. I mean, so
not really alien connotations. I'm just saying it's that amazing to me. Yeah, go ahead.
but when's the last time we built a building that is tied to not only nature but also to cosmology? Because that's exactly what this is, right? This is Orion's belt, right? This is the 3 stars
Yes.
of Orion's belt, and
Yes.
it's aligned in a certain pattern to harness some sort of potential energy from it or produce some sort of energy. We don't really know, but these are the hypotheses. So these are
All
the
this does is it pushes the timeline back on when they had to start making the damn thing too.
So not, but they're living in nature, but they're also living with astronomy. So when's the last time we've ever built a building like that on Earth?
Is this crazy to say that something
That was
about
supposed
this
to be
looks electroconductive?
electroconductive. Yeah.
I've seen these spirals, which could be something different, but it's not. I don't think it's a fucking like like on your car you have shocks. I don't think it's any. It could be foundational cylinders, and the spirals could have been the shafts of which they had to build it, and it might not have anything going on with that. But with the way that the chambers in the middle. Now, I've heard these theories that I have a harder time going along with, like, oh, it was a chemical factory. I'm like, a factory for chemicals? I'm like, yeah, okay. And they're like, oh, for fertilizer for the plants. And I'm like, the biggest structure ever? In my head, I just, for some reason, a factory for making ammonia. I feel like they were using chemicals in whatever this was for, not making the chemicals in there. But that's just my first go-to. But I think everyone's heard the chemical factory, storm cloud generator, a tomb, and what's another theory? Oh, aliens built it, something like that.
Information in multiple languages and to the wider public. Now, this news is already starting to make its way through various social media platforms, and the speculation has clearly begun. Some people are saying this is evidence of ancient lost high technology, indicating some sort.
It's definitely lost technology.
I mean,
sure.
even if it's not real, like let's just say that what is his name? Dibble is correct, and this is all bullshit, and it gets exposed. It still doesn't. We still can't build the top portions of the pyramids today. We don't have the massive cranes and all this other shit to do it. So it still to me stays relevant.
This is all bullshit. I didn't watch.
Oh, he said that in the chat. He said that Dibble made a response video to it, and
that these cylinders and these boxes, they're not. He thinks they're not there.
I don't know if he thinks it's not there or whatnot, but he says Dibble did a live stream yesterday explaining this. It's pure nonsense.
So that's one thing that we'll do is the next episode is we'll watch a little bit of his. I'm going to finish this and then I'm going to bounce, but let's go.
Sort of electromagnetic or energy functionality. Others are saying this is purely architectural and the spirals going up and down those columns are staircases. There's others even saying this could be evidence of the fabled Hall of Records said to be somewhere underneath the plateau in Giza. I have my personal beliefs, but one thing is for sure, that this is bound to spark a lot of controversy between both the.
You know how when you dig a well, once you break the water table, the water comes up? Well, the chambers and stuff in the pyramid, if they had water being fed into them somehow from just the ground, anyway, I know that you can do stuff with electroconductivity and water, blah, blah, blah.
Academic and alternative communities when it comes to our ancient past. Where I stand is that I think it's fascinating that there are still new discoveries happening with new research and new technological advancements, and I'm waiting to see what evidence they provide.
What makes me so mad is when you try to do investigations, all these officials from Egypt will cock block you and do everything they can. I think Graham Hancock's been kicked out of there now. Like, they don't want you finding out anything they don't know. And I hate that when it comes to government or administrations, is when they refuse to let you know any lost history at all. They refuse to let you ever find it out. They refuse to let you publish it. They refuse all this crap. And I guess it's to drive the narrative that what is in the history books is that we're not wrong. We're not wrong. Those history books we wrote, they're right.
I think there's that, and I think it's capitalism, right? So I think this is my argument. This is one of my big arguments against capitalism. So they're putting the dollar, because it's all tourism, right?
Right.
It's all tourism. So if you start letting people come in, the tourism's probably going to trickle down. But they're putting that over science and truth, right? And discovery. And so that's one of the problems with capitalism, is that they're taking the money over the truth.
Because it is truly exciting. Now, there's a chance that this is just perhaps misinterpreted data.
But it would appear from that 2022 publication that at least some of the structures were able to be mapped using this technology. And perhaps even further enhancements were made to the technology itself when approaching this subsequent project.
The only thing I know for sure.
Why do I feel like once we crack this code, it will just like unlock a new achievement for humankind? I feel like this is the escape room that no one's figured out yet, you know?
Sure, is that we don't know everything. And so as time moves forward and things develop, it's important for me to stay on top of the latest findings that are coming out. I think it's important for all of you to have it when it comes out so you can make your own decisions for yourself. In the description below, I will link the media management team that is putting out this research team's information. I appreciate you watching. This is a bit different than the content you're used to. And I have a ton of adventure videos that I'm currently editing to put out there. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And definitely leave any thoughts.
All right, good enough. All right, yeah, so this is freaking badass. I am so stoked. I feel like there's a whole new topic to explore now that's going to have video after person doing research on this. I am so freaking stoked. It's honestly, it's kind of a relief, because I feel everyone's been kind of getting burned out on all the stuff we have been talking about to a degree. And the stuff that I do in my personal life with the bodybuilding and stuff, it doesn't really go into the channel as well as like some pyramid discoveries would, in a way. Just ancient stuff versus bro shit from like nowadays.
I got another big discovery, but they don't, it's like this. We don't know if it's real. There's problems inherently with it. But basically they took a bunch of, so, you know, like the last planet we found was like, what, 1917 or something by at Pluto, right? So, and then what's his name? Sitchin came out with the Planet X or Nibiru and all this other stuff, right? They fed all of this astronomical data into AI just to make it do the calculations and scan all of those images and look for planetary changes within our own solar system.
Right.
And basically it came back with saying that there's another large planet way outside of Pluto, and that they had an image of this movement. So they have like green, red, blue of that one planet moving. And it could be like up to 7 times the size of Earth, actually.
Right.
And it has a weird elliptical orbit, as described as Sitchin was trying to say. So it's just interesting to see that now, but there's inherent problems with it. Like, people are like, well, the AI could be making a mistake. You know, maybe it's not true. We have to investigate more of it. But the reason they used AI is just because it can do the calculations a lot faster than, you know, somebody sitting in a room sifting through a bunch of, you know, millions of freaking photographs from a telescope.
I see a bunch of articles here, but we'll definitely crack that open, because if we're going to talk a little bit about the pyramids and stuff on the next episode, then that definitely, with all the Orion lining up with the pyramid tops and stuff, it kind of opens up that conversation too. But I'm gonna bounce. I got a bunch of shit to do this weekend. Anything you want to say, bro?
No, I'm flying out to China tomorrow, so you guys have it going. But yeah,
you have to find some time to log on over there and live from Hong Kong.
I'm gonna try. Yeah,
man, for sure. Well, we'll see you later, bro.
All right, take care. Have a good day, man.
Yeah, man. All right, guys, I appreciate you stopping by. I'll see you next time.